And there are more than 300 authentic miracles of the Prophet, which unfortunately many people don't know. Prophecies, the Quran talks about many prophecies itself within the Quran. It's not a statement of the Prophet, but if we were to share some examples, here, there's one example here. For a person which the Quran says, may the hands of Abu Lahab perish.
What's that mean?
May he be destroyed. So basically, he will be the dwellers of hellfire, and so shall be his wife, because of their disbelief. Abu Lahab has been prophesied that he will remain a non-Muslim. He lived, this is one of the uncles of the Prophet ﷺ, I think.
His uncle, yeah.
He is a disbeliever, didn't believe in the Quran and didn't believe in Islam. What the Quran prophesied about him, that you will go to hellfire, meaning you will remain a disbeliever. This particular individual lived for more than 10 years after that revelation was given. To destroy Islam, all he had to do is simply come up and say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Abdullah wa Rasuluh. That I believe there is no God worthy of worship except one and only true God, Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the the servant and messenger, the worshipper of Allah, servant and messenger of God, this one true God. If he did that in public, he will be called a Muslim, even if he was a hypocrite inside. Okay? And then he would say Islam is destroyed, because now the Quran says I'm going to go to hell, but I'm a Muslim. He had this opportunity. So this was an opportunity for that individual for 10 years to do that thing. But he didn't come up with this. The Quran talks about elsewhere, I'll give you another example. Chapter 30. Here. The Romans have been defeated. Here. Alif Lam Mim. The Romans have been defeated in the nearest land.
Did that not come after?
It says they will be victorious soon again within 3 to 7 years. Bid'a sinin. After a period of time, they will be victorious again, even though they were defeated. And this is exactly how it happened. Now think about it. Someone, if he is a fake individual, an imposter, a fake prophet, and there are two superpowers of the day, the Byzantines and the Persians. They're fighting with each other. Now to say, you know what, the Romans are now defeated, but they'll be victorious again within 3 to 7 or 3 to 9 years, 3 to 7 years. What if they were not victorious again? He will be demonstrated to be a false prophet. So this is too of a high risk state of, it can prove him wrong. But the Quran talks about it, and this is exactly what happens. So these kind of statements where, the Quran lays down to people of critical thinking, they would know that this is something a fake prophet won't do, can't do, shouldn't do, but the Quran does that anyway. The Quran comes along, and another example, I'll leave it to these 3 examples. It says, you did not know this before. How does the Quran know, for example, what you don't know, Do I know what you don't know? You could be a professor of astrophysics, for example. And I say, you don't know anything about physics. And you will correct me and say, look, let me tell you, here it is, yeah? So then when the Quran addressed some people saying, this is what it is, and you don't know, you didn't know all this before, no one said we knew it. An opportunity for people to demonstrate that the Quran is false.
So we can check that proof otherwise. If that can be proved otherwise.
Yeah, for example, if these people came forward and said, we knew about what you're saying, he will be demonstrated to be a false prophet because he's making this up when it's not true.
Because in the Old Testament, when someone was a false prophet, they brought him to the stone.
Yeah, so the prophet gave what we call falsification tests, in which whether he's true, whether the Quran is true or not, can be falsified easily.
The Bible also says that the Bible also says that if a prophet says these things and they don't come to the truth, this is a false prophet.
Yeah.
They can mitigate.
That's where the difference between the Quran and the Bible, for example, Jesus Christ has said, this generation will not pass, but you shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. Something along this line. But that generation passed, and the next generation passed, and so on, and still he's not here.
That generation.
He specifically says,
Days, if you look at that scripture, it says in the end days, the generation of that day.
now he talks about, he's speaking to the generation, he says, this generation would not pass. I can bring the reference if you want. Yeah? So that's different when it comes to that. When it comes to the Quran offers really rigid and robust falsification test. The one about when the Quran says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ, do they not ponder the Quran with care? وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. If it wasn't from God, you would find within it many discrepancies. Guess what?
You say there's none.
The word for discrepancy, if somebody came and said, okay, it's only saying within this Quran you would not find many discrepancies, this word, many discrepancies. I found another word called discrepancy. There you go, there's more than one discrepancy in the Quran, and they will be falsified. Even to that level, the Quran is challenge is so profound that the word ikhtilafan, which means discrepancy or inconsistencies, only occurs once in the whole of the Quran in this form. So that individuals who think they are smart enough to bring something, another word like ikhtilafan, they would fail.
So a discrepancy is in the 7th century Quran. There's no dots, there's none of these marks in it, but there is now. So is that not discrepancy?
When the Quran talks about inconsistencies and discrepancies, it's talk about within its message. Yeah? If the Quran says God has no son and says God has a son, that's a discrepancy, that's a contradiction. So within the internal contents of the Quran, they are coherent. You will not find a discrepancy or inconsistencies. And if the Quran was not from God and it talked about science, astrophysics, biology, history, economics, anthropology, sociology, psychology. Think about it. No, think about it. We will see. Psychology, science. If it talks about all of these things, you would expect someone to make mistakes somewhere here and there. So the Quran is saying, ponder and think with deep reflection. If it wasn't from God, you will certainly find within it these discrepancies, inconsistencies, and contradiction. You say science. Give me an example where Quran gets the science wrong.
Does it talk about man's sperm comes from the backbone?
Man's what?
Man's sperm comes from
Of course not. The Quran says, let man ponder. Yeah? فَلْيَنظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ مِمَّا خُلِقَ. Let man think from what he's created from. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ. No, it's not like this, sorry. خُلِقَ مِنْ مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ يَخْرُجُ مِنْ بَيْنِ الصُّلْبِ وَالتَّرَائِبِ.
إنه على رجعه لقادر.
نعم. Man is created from a gushing, spurting fluid. Let's stop there for a second. Why is it describing this particular word in this form, mimma in dafiq? Because normally the Arabic would have been mimma in madfuq, something which has been gushed forth. So it seems like the fluid itself is self-propelled, self-emitting, and thus we know exactly within the human male reproductive fluid, within which the constituents of sperm is self-motile. It has a tail that it wiggles to run towards the ovum. Right. This is the first point. Second point. يَخْرُجُ مِنْ بَيْنِ الصُّلْبِ وَالتَّرَائِبِ. He emerges from in between the backbone and the ribs, place where the necklace is. At-taraib is the place of necklace around here. And the sulb is from here to all the way to the coccyx, the backbone. So it emerges from in between these two places, right?
It doesn't say from the backbone itself.
Not in between. Now who emerges? It doesn't say the fluid emerges. It refers to the human being. In one of the interpretations from the linguistic aspects, the whole human being. So there's two aspects. God is providing two different arguments here. The human being is protected Because it starts by saying وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقُ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الطَّارِقُ النَّجْمُ الثَّاقِبُ. Yep, right. By this knocking, the knocker. And says, and what do you know what the knocker is? It's a piercing bright star. So, what the Quran, and then it talks about how God is preserving. What? النجم الثاقب. No, just 1 second. No, just 1 second.
Remind, what's the ayah?
The ayah is, okay, والسماء والطارق وما أدراك ما الطارق النجم الثاقب إن كل نفس لما عليها حافظ. Yes? For surely there is a protector, a guardian.
I can start speaking Irish.
No. What I'm saying is the word hafiz, a protecting thing. There's a protector over it. So the Quran, when the next talks about the human beings, it even gives you the description how the human beings comes out in a place which is protected by what? The ribs of the front and at the backbone. This is how it's enclosed in a particular region in which it's safe and protected. So the Quran is not getting anything scientifically wrong here. It's describing a phenomena in which that we know for sure this is exactly in congruence with the Quran. Yeah? Yeah. You will not find the Quran goes anything against established scientific facts. But scientific facts, they're volatile. Because science can change. That's why we don't judge the Quran by the scientific facts. We judge the scientific facts with the Quran. Did it get it right? Did it go along with the Quran or not? If they haven't done so yet, then they still need to investigate a bit more and so on. Just to give me this point, just like people at one point, when the Quran was revealed, they believed the universe was static. It doesn't expand. So when the Quran says no, God is expanding it. So those Muslims who are scholars and scientists at that time, they didn't simply say, oh, the Quran gets it wrong. They're saying science needs to correct itself. Science needs to do more investigation, more learning to know what the reality is. That was the standpoint of the Muslims. And we know now today we believe the universe is expanding and it's not static.
The generalization of the earth expanding or the universe expanding. The Quran explains that. Is it just generalized? It's like these things, this or that, you know. Is it generalized? Is it scientific factually that he knew?
The Quran shows وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّ لَهُ لَمُوسِعُونَ. I think this is how our ayah goes. Surely God says, we have created, made, fashioned this world with our own hands. And we are the expander thereof. Meaning God says, I am the one expanding it. Yeah, He's made it, expanding it. But it doesn't stop there. The Quranic cosmology goes even further, saying, just like God began this universe in the way He created, He will roll it back like a scroll. So as it's expanding, it will be contracted again. But that's not enough yet. The Quran goes even further. And then there will be again another. Yep. So there will be another creation. New creation. So the Quranic, the way it presents the cosmology, scientists coming to the grasp of it as they're learning more and more with their scientific tools. So when we talk about, again, as a falsification test for the Quran encourages, challenges people to find an inconsistencies. And when they cannot find it, what is the Quran asking? Why are you not going to believe in it? So an example would be like this. When the Quran says,
search for truth. Why think I have truth? I have to tell you it. You think you have truth, you have to tell me.
Yeah. So when the Quran says, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Do not the unbelievers, the one who don't believe in God, the one who don't believe in Islam, who don't believe in the Quran, do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth was joined together, and then God separated them. And we brought every living thing from water. Would they then not believe? Look at how the Quran ends with this, addresses first of all that you don't believe, and ends with a question, would you then not believe? What does it do in between? It gives evidence and proof for them to assess their belief in God and Islam, in the Quran, whether it's correct or not. After the evidence is provided, it's asking, would you not believe? Yeah, so that's why the Quran is saying this is the truth. سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ. Quran says we shall soon show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that this is the truth. What have I given you? I've given you evidence from the horizons about the cosmos, about the creation of the heavens and the earth. No. I've given you the reality of how the origin of the universe is and everything from one origin. One second. My friend, when the Quran 1400 years ago talked about the common origin of the universe, there were one piece. At that time, people believed otherwise. They believe universe is static, it doesn't expand. Right. So the Quran corrected them and correcting people today, and it becomes an evidence for its own divine origin from the horizon. And then the example, one second, my friend, and the example about human being born from the wombs of the mother and the way they go through a process of transformation itself is another evidence from within themselves, and they know that it's the truth.
If I use that same logic on you from the Bible, when the Bible talks about how the world was created.
Why does the Bible get science wrong?
No, if I tell you the same thing, how the Bible talks about how the world was created.
Bible?
The Bible says the world was created in 7 days, shows you how it was made, it talks about how it was made.
Same like you, in other words.
You just said that to me.
What I'm saying about the Bible is,
Does that mean I have the truth? And you have the truth?
Bible, look, the Bible firstly should contain truth if it's from God, right? And it should also not contain falsehood and errors. The problem is, if you were to deal with the second part, why does the Bible have scientific errors? For example, when it comes to the human creation, it says the menstrual blood is the one that congeals the sperm and so on. This is the book of Job. Menstrual blood is employed in the process of creation of a baby. That is what is scientifically wrong and false. It talks about the